stage of persona.
She can't, bro. Not at this point, nigga. Like, it needs to come from within. The whole desire to change needs to come from within, and I feel like it hasn't hit her yet. You feel me? She's not there yet. Kicking it with Amala. You know what I'm saying? What the hell is happening in DC? What the hell is happening in DC?
On in DC. Now, because of the rampant crime in Washington, DC, Trump has deployed the National Guard to the area, saying that he wants to, quote, rescue the nation's capital from crime. Now, many are pushing back on him, saying that he's authoritarian, that he's creating a police state, while others are saying he's doing what's necessary to help not only Washington, DC, but all of its citizens survive this crime rampage that's taking place in the city. So, let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better.
Crime rampage, right? You know me, I always gotta clarify, like, for the sake of just, like, being on track with shit. You know what I'm saying? Rampage. What does rampage mean again? So he's telling me it's just a sudden boom in... Man, come on, man. It's a sudden boom in just crime? Just, like, out of nowhere, like, type shit. Is that what y'all telling me, period? The term rampage refers to a period of violent and uncontrollable behavior. You can't describe actions that are reckless, destructive, or cause chaos. Common synonyms include fury, mayhem. So it's just a breakout of just... So you're telling me it's a breakout of criminality? Why the fuck did I do that? That's crazy.
Yeah, you better.
Felt like the safest place, and I'm saying that as a girl who's currently living in Los Angeles, and we know what Los Angeles looks like on a typical day. I can tell you my car in Los Angeles has been broken into not once but twice, okay? And twice is far too many. Once is too many, okay? So I know a little bit about living in a city that is running rampant with crime. Now I'm gonna get you into a news clip that talks about Trump and this decision to deploy the National Guard to Washington, D.C., and then we'll talk a little bit more about the issue.
President Trump earlier saying he's deploying the National Guard to the nation's capital and placing police under federal control now. Let's bring in D.C. Police Union Chairman Gregory Pemberton. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. So from your view, is this necessary?
Well, look, we completely agree with the president that crime in the District of Columbia is out of control and something needs to be done with it. We have to go back to how we got here, though. In 2020, the D.C. City Council passed an enormous amount of legislation that handcuffs police officers, exposes them to administrative, civil, and even criminal liability, even when they do their jobs properly. And now, 5 years later, our authorized sworn strength is 4,000 sworn police officers. We currently have 3,180. So we have more than 800 vacancies for the position of police officer. And the way the department makes up for that gap is through 2 million hours of mandatory overtime every year. So the fact that we need help from federal law enforcement and maybe even the National Guard, it shouldn't come as a surprise, and we agree with that. I think one of the issues here, though, is that we all know that's going to be temporary. So in order to fix this problem and make sure that it doesn't ebb and flow and that the feds come in and we lower crime and then they leave and we're left holding the bag, it's very important that people know that there is underlying legislation.
All right, so before we get into, you know what I'm saying, anything further, I feel like, you know what I'm saying, crime is a problem in a lot of places, right? Crime has been a problem in a lot of places. So I feel like why double, unless I'm missing some shit, why double down on, you know what I'm saying, this right here? Unless, you know what I mean? There's some agenda where it's like deploying a whole lot more to make DC look a certain way or feel a certain way, because to say like, or I don't know, man. Sudden rampage and crime in DC. Wait, let me check that out. Is this how you spell it? Washington, DC. Sudden rampage and crime stats in Washington, DC. Sudden spike in crime statistics. Topic of concern, especially with President Trump's recent. Let me read this more. I bet. Comments and actions, however, the data suggests a different picture. That's what I was questioning right now. While there are a notable increase in violent crime in 2023, that's since declined in 2023. Data indicates an increase in assaults, homicides, abductions, and sex. The further decrease in reports are full of overall crime between although the past 5 years have seen the highest number of the past 5 years, however, have seen the highest number of homicides in the capital since 2008. Despite the initial concerns, the trend shows that violent crime in DC is currently the city's reported violent crime rate is more or less as low as it is. Okay, something's not balancing out. Let me hear Amala's point of
that
view.
needs to be corrected so that we can actually properly staff this police department in order to properly police the city.
I don't know, sounds reasonable to me. Now, I can understand people being a little bit apprehensive about the federal government getting involved in their community, especially on the basis of law enforcement, but it seems like it's necessary. When your city is looking like Gotham City,
Gotham is yours. None shall interfere. Do as you please.
I bet you should be thanking the National Guard for showing up and trying to take care of the criminals in the area. And there's an extensive problem in Washington, D.C., just like there is in my city of L.A. There's tons of carjackings, breaking and entering, looting, robbing, murders. The small city of D.C. has already dealt with over 100 homicides in just this year alone. So if Trump says, hey, we need to get this situation handled and use the National Guard to do so, maybe we should go forward with that, especially when you're listening to those numbers about the police force, how low they are in actual officers and how overworked these individuals are. And again, we have these same problems going on in LA. If you talk to local law enforcement, they're almost handcuffed and doing their own job. It's very difficult to do their job even when they're doing it well. And most of them are. So you're looking at officers who are overworked, and when they are working, they're having to jump through hoops just to do normal aspects of their job. And I can't imagine that is not deeply impacting a place like Washington, D.C. Now, despite this reality, Democrats have been saying that crime is actually going down in the area, so they don't understand why the National Guard has been deployed. But let's watch a news clip where we have a local resident ask whether or not she believes crime has gone down in her area.
I hear from city leaders and others that crime is actually down. Are you seeing that?
No.
No difference.
I'm not seeing it. We're seeing carjackings.
Yeah, man, at this point, I feel like, you know what I'm saying, when people just be coming out like, yo, we're doubling down on our, you know what I'm saying, the tightening up of law enforcement, you feel me, movements and activity and whatever in a certain area, it's like, I feel like it's all, you know what I mean, it's a front for something else, bro. Maybe some sort of political moves, you know what I'm saying, in the background, in the backdrop, you feel me? So doing things like deploying a whole bunch more officers and shit like this, it's like, you know what I'm saying, it's really a front to something. I'm just trying to like see like what it could be in this particular, you know what I'm saying, instance.
The violence in the communities. So we were advocating then for the national.
Because that was my whole thing too. It was like, yo, there's a lot of crime in a lot of spots. You feel what I'm saying? Why particularly in DC? You know what I'm saying? Okay, maybe that's
National Guard to come out, but they said there was no need. But think about how many lives could have been saved just having them on the scene.
And she's not the only resident that feels this way. You can hear from many living in Washington, D.C. and cities alike that crime is on the rise, and we're feeling it in our very own backyards. And if we need the National Guard to come in and fix this, we need the National Guard to come in and fix this. But in case you need more stats, here's more. D.C. has one of the highest murder rates in the world right now.
in the world. That's crazy. National Guard is a unique component of the U.S. military that serves both state and federal government. It acts as the primary combat reserve for the Army and Air Force, composed of part-time soldiers. Blah, blah. Okay, cool.
Okay, and one of the police chiefs who was responsible for circulating this myth that crime was going down was actually fired. So there you go. But of course, this leads me to another discussion about the current police chief in Washington, D.C. Now, this individual, this woman, was prior the chief diversity officer. Gotta love that. Actually, let me get the title right because they don't want to mistitle this individual. She was the chief equity officer, which means she was in charge of, quote, the department's efforts on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, you guys know how I feel about DEI, okay? It's a failed practice. It is not helpful towards any of our institutions, let alone law enforcement. And you could say, Amala, just because she was the chief equity officer doesn't mean that she's not going to be good as the DC police chief. She could just really be stepping up right now, you know, stepping into her element, really getting them organized in maybe a chain of command. Watch this clip.
That's what the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, speaking to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the process. The president designated Attorney General Bondi as his proxy to request services through me.
Okay, so there you have it. Chain of command. What does that mean? And I don't know, this could be a one-off, it could be a fluke, but it does seem pretty essential to your job to understand what a chain of command is. So I don't know, when I'm looking at this Washington D story, it seems pretty plain and simple to me that it...
Hold on, man, let's make that... Let's simplify that for ourselves right here, right? Outlines the authority and responsibilities of each level of personnel. It ensures that commands are communicated effectively from the top leader. Like, but these is like, you know what I'm saying, generic shit that somebody from, you know what I'm saying, that position should know. It's like,
probably is necessary for the National Guard to be deployed to this city in order to inject a little bit of law and order to the goings-ons on a daily basis for Washington, D.C. Not only is it probably necessary there, but there are other metropolitan areas that I'm looking at, including the one that I'm living in, where I'm thinking somebody needs to get up in here and reconfigure things. And if you don't want that to happen on a federal level, then make sure that that is happening on a local level. And instead, what we're having is these soft-on-crime politicians being ushered into leadership, and they're making the lives of regular citizens living hell. They're leaving us to carry the burden of whatever the criminals around us want to do. I'm reminded in California, they had these soft on crime policies about shoplifting, where they essentially said if you shoplift under what, $950, you can do so, and it's no longer going to be seen as a felony. You can basically just get away with shoplifting now. And what did that lead to? A whole bunch of looting, a whole bunch of people being robbed, and it basically tells
worst side effects.
You're okay, do whatever you want to do, because leadership here does not give a about the people who live here. And how many victim stories do you
they be thinking these things through when they be making certain decisions, bro? These are the questions that end up just like remaining in my own head.
Need to hear before something is done about this. I'll give you a few stories in this video just to substantiate the claim that this is probably necessary. An ABC News anchor revealed that she was jumped by a half-dressed vagrant in DC. Quote, "We're all experiencing it firsthand." Or you can hear from the family members of murder victims in D.C.
With the Trump administration now vowing to crack down on crime here in the district in light of last week's assault on a former DOJ staffer, Nazia Israel says for her it brings mixed emotions.
It comes at their front door, and you want to do something about it.
2 years ago, her brother Reggie was brutally beaten to death on Georgia Avenue by 5 girls, ages 12 to 15. Reggie was battling cancer and weighed just 110 pounds. Social media messages by the girls revealed during the trial for Brown's murder said they did it because they were bored.
Do you need to hear more? And many of the families of these victims who have lost their lives, many of the victims who fortunately did not lose their lives, are coming forward and asking the question, why has this not happened sooner? And making the statement, as this one made, of why did it have to come to your backyard in order for you to recognize it? And that's a totally understandable question to ask. When you are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis in your community, you are seeing your community rot right in front of you. You are witnessing victim after victim pop up because criminals are able to run rampant through your city. It does become a question of when are we going to get help? And when we do get help, why did we not get it sooner? And we've seen this happen time and time again.
And not only is that discouraging, it's scary as fuck, bro. Now imagine you got all those emotions in one, like that's like triple whammy of just like dark emotions. You feel what I'm saying?
In the metropolitan areas of the...
It's like the loss of hope, fear, and you know what I'm saying, anxiety. You feel, the anxiety was the third one, right? It's crazy. Either way, it's like, it's crazy.
United States. And why? Just ask yourself why. I mean,
and then, you know what I'm saying? We do ask why motherfuckers don't want to remain in the cities that they would. You feel what I'm saying? Now I'm talking about like, staying behind and trying to transform your city on some shit. You feel what I'm saying? Like being the one of the few that ends up making it out of your city. You know what I mean? Just going back and, you know what I mean? Trying to like uplift it on some shit. Nah, dude.
I mean, I have a few theories. Many of these areas are often run by Democrat politicians who are running soft on crime policies and are pushing ideas of restorative justice, which essentially means we don't want to put people.
My point is that, you know what I'm saying, to even eradicate shit like broken promises or promises not delivered on, if you're by these politicians, you get somebody who makes it on some shit. You feel what I'm saying? Maybe a handful of people who like got life-changing sort of resources to literally, if they were to come together, they could change a city, bro. You feel me? You end up getting those kind of people not even bothering. You feel what I'm saying? Because of like people, because of the manifestations, because of like the realities that end up being what the city is. You feel me?
In prison or in jail. We want to start giving people zero bail because we're scared about their socioeconomic status, and instead of caring about crime.
Because it's all these systems that are already like just, you know what I'm saying? Because these politicians, right? It's like they kind of bring the hope of, you know what I'm saying, of systematic kind of like changes or alterations within a certain city, or, you know what I'm saying, area, region, whatever. You feel what I'm saying? So they kind of like have, you know, that's why they make all these promises, man. They kind of like have the, oh, this is what's about to happen, yo, trust me. You feel me, yo, like.
And the victims of those crimes, they care more about the criminals. And then when somebody comes in and implements something that is hopefully,
I think she's about to reiterate what I'm saying,
going to change the state of things, is going to bring down crime and save citizens' lives, they push back on the.
What the fuck I just say? Yeah, I think she put it in a better way. They do push back. It is a pushback. So it ends up discouraging those kind of people that do have that kind of muscle, that kind of resource to change a place. You feel me? It discourages those. But that's why I'm like, yo, that discourage. Yeah, that was the third one. It's discouragement, fear, and loss of hope. Right? The big three of just like the negative emotions that you just like get filled within your own body being in these cities, bro.
These individuals. Now I'm going to show you a crazy TikTok response to cops and federal officers showing up in DC to take care of this law and order issue. Let's watch.
Black people in DC, get your
asses together
and take care of them police officers like they should have been taken care of 50 years ago.
Okay. You're making a great claim not to have the National Guard in DC. What the hell are you talking about? And it's not like the National Guard is going there to specifically target black people. They are going there to target criminals. And why would you not want that for the area that you're living in? Even beyond that, why would you want police officers to be attacked? It is this sort of mentality towards policing, these sort of ideas about Black Lives Matter and restorative justice that lead to the issues that Washington, DC is experiencing in the first place. And while that's just one crazy person on TikTok, let's turn to some of our
Yeah, but Amala, you gotta understand, like, online you'll find like a whole bunch of like people with their own POVs as to like why shit should happen, or you know what I mean. And sometimes, like, I feel like more often than not it's like their POVs is just like projections, right? Projections of like what they desire to happen, or how you know what I'm saying, how shit should happen. Okay, I think that's the same thing. I just said the same. Just, yeah, projections, bro. So it's like sometimes taking just a regular person like you and me online, you feel me, is taking their perception, their POV seriously is like, you know what I'm saying, we can't really do that.
Media figures, let's say at MSNBC, to see how they're responding to this Washington, D.C. takeover.
I think it's really important to be clear about what is going on here, and a relatively small crime problem is being used for specific authoritarian purposes that we know and understand. So let's be clear about, DC does have one really big crime problem, which was the January 6th insurrection incited by the current President of the United States. And his first act in coming back was pardoning all the people who tried to overturn constitutional republic order in Washington, D.C. When I go to D.C., I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid of losing my vote. I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid that my children's freedom to breathe will be stolen in a world where climate change policy is non-existent. I'm afraid that the future of middle-class people will be stolen by the very things you were talking about, cutting the safety net, cutting Medicaid, cutting rural hospitals.
Right.
So there is
and of course.
Yeah, Okay, that's what you're afraid of. And maybe this MSNBC host has like a very cushy life. Maybe he feels secure. I'm sure the MSNBC building has security of some sort. So maybe he's not afraid of losing his wallet or being carjacked or having any sort of crime befall him. But guaranteed, the people who are living in Washington, D.C. are dealing with these issues every single day, not just on January 6th. And if we want to bring up January 6th, don't make me get into the BLM riots. I could go on and on about this. But instead of addressing the true issue, which has not brought the National Guard into DC for no reason, he decides to skirt the issue and to talk about something else. He's scared of losing his vote and not his wallet. Well, congratulations to him. He's leading a more safe and secure life than many of those who are living in DC. And if you are a citizen of DC who's been a victim of a crime, a family member of somebody who's been a victim of crime, or somebody who's probably going to experience it in the future, just know that this host at MSNBC doesn't care. And if you call now, we get another clip from MSNBC. Let's watch.
You don't think more police make streets safer?
No, Joe. I'm a black woman in America. I do not always think that more police make streets safer. When you walk down the streets of Georgetown, you don't see a police officer on every corner, but you don't feel unsafe. So what is it about talking about places like Southeast D.C., right? Ward 8, if you will, that people say, well, we need more officers to make us safe. I think we have to rethink what safety means in America.
I'm going to go out on a strong limb here and say that the reason that people talk about these two areas differently is because they experience these two areas differently. And probably one area has a far bigger problem with crime and criminals than the other. Plain and simple. It's really as simple as that. And I have a feeling that she, as a black woman in America, is not going to have that much trouble with police unless she creates trouble with police officers. I'm so sick of this narrative that because of somebody's skin color, there should not be more police in their area. Oftentimes people who are black and brown are living in the areas that need police the most. They are living in areas that deal with the most crime. And for you to use your identity as...
I might just add to that the fact that, you know, the black areas are where crime is more rampant, right? That's just my ignorant POV about it, because, you know, according to the classism theories, like, you find a whole lot of, like, more black people, if we attaching race to the whole thing, black people, you know what I'm saying, that are like occupying the lower middle to lower tiers of the class, right? Like the classes in society, right? So obviously, you know what I'm saying, where opportunities is least, feel me? Poverty, blah blah blah. Feel like I'm trading lightly on this because it's like it depends on where in the world you're talking about this, right? But at the same time, DC is in the US, you know what I'm saying? First world. Like more of my experiences and more of my experiences have been like in the third world. Feel me? Third world. I don't know what happens in the second world. I'm talking about like, yeah, in the pits and shit like that. That's how it is. Feel me? So of course, like, the black areas are gonna be where they experience a whole lot of these criminal activities, right? Because they are the crime, bro. Like, what are we talking about?
As some sort of reason to not have that is absolutely ridiculous, especially considering she's an affluent black woman who's sitting on MSNBC. Now, when it comes to the situation with Washington, D.C. and the National Guard, it seems as though it's going to be a temporary situation. If that at all changes, I guess we'll get back to it and talk about it again. But you know what's going to happen in this temporary situation?
What?
We're going to see a change in numbers. Either the crime is going to go up, it's going to stay the same, or it's going to go down. And then we'll have something to look at when it comes to the effectiveness of this practice. But we can see that the practice didn't just pop up out of nowhere. The city has been dealing with a rampant crime issue. Citizens have been screaming from the rooftops, wanting somebody to do something about this, wanting a little bit of law and order in their backyards, and now they're getting it. And hopefully it is for the betterment of Washington, D.C. And if it's not, you go back to the drawing board. Now I can see again as
But I mean, you know, politicians and things like this, bro, are always notorious for things like making these promises, bro, of like, yo, you know, we have to strengthen this and that and the third, you know what I'm saying, get more, tighten up, you know what I'm saying, the safety of the city and shit like this. And yes, you are right, we're gonna have to wait and see for the delivery, whether the delivery is legit. You feel what I'm saying? Because when it comes to politicians, all of these kind of chats are at the backdrop of like certain agendas that are trying to be pushed and shit like this. So I don't know, man. It's really I ain't heard of the whole situation in DC up until like right now. So shout out Amala, opening us up to more of the world.